Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's webinar. It's really amazing to have so many people joining us tonight, and I'm very excited about tonight's topic. So before Cynthia starts, I'd just like to introduce her. Cynthia Bampton is the co-founder of the Awakened Life Project, and she's dedicated to helping men and women understand that spiritual freedom is our true and inherent nature. Cynthia has this amazing ability to make this spiritual truth not just a great sounding concept, but accessible and relevant to our daily lives, which means that actual transformation can really take place. And this is why I love to be a part of this project. So there will be time for question and answer, and I really urge you to take advantage of the time to bring any questions or comments that you have. And with that, I'll hand it to you, Cynthia.
All right, good evening, everybody. We're gonna just do a short meditation before we get started. So if everybody can sit up straight, find a comfortable place to sit. And keeping your back straight and upright. Your shoulders relaxed. Closing your eyes. And take a deep breath in. And exhale and release any tension you might be carrying. And again, inhale, breathing very deeply. And exhale, release and relax. Just do this at your own pace. And allow yourself to feel the breath coming into the body, expanding the lungs. The sensation of the body, and as you're exhaling, feel the tension release, the body relax. And be aware as you inhale that the body becomes alive. It starts to tingle with energy. And as you exhale and you release any tension, recognize that the body starts to respond to this deep breathing, the breath of life coming in and the release of tension. So just for a moment or two, bring your awareness to the body being breathed. Just be aware of the breath coming in and the breath releasing. So allow yourself to just slow down. The mind may be very busy and agitated, but it doesn't matter. Just keep your attention on the body being breathed. The inhale and the exhale. Allow the breath to just massage the physical being. And feel how the breath works with the body. It's one unit So take a moment to recognize that you're aware of the body breathing. You're aware of the sounds around you. You're aware of the light in the room, even with your eyes closed. You're aware of the movement of mind as thoughts arise and fall away. You might be aware of tension or pain in the body. You might be aware of agitation. You might be aware of stillness. So the content of your experience right now is not important. What's important is that you recognize that you are aware of the content that's arising. So the content is irrelevant. It doesn't matter if you have happy thoughts or unhappy thoughts. If you feel fantastic or you're tired and grumpy. Doesn't matter if you're physically comfortable or uncomfortable. The only thing that matters is you recognize you're aware of the whole movement. And you're also aware that anything that's arising in that awareness is constantly changing. One thought changes to another thought. Maybe you have a pain in your back one moment and it disappears in the next. Everything is arising and falling away within your awareness. You might feel contracted, but if you're aware you're contracted, then you can also recognize that the contraction is just another object arising in your awareness, just as a thought, a feeling, or any other sensation. The mind may be labeling everything. This is good, this is bad. I am smart, this is horrible. Everybody else is meditating and I'm not. But all of that chatter is just another object arising. And they're completely equal. When you're meditating, all content is just content. Because freedom means free from. It doesn't mean chasing experience. It doesn't mean chasing a thought and rejecting another thought. It's all the same. It's all a movement. And you are that which is aware. Already resting, already deeply at ease, where nothing is missing, and happiness and love is the essence of who you are. Not because you're doing anything to make it so, but because it's true. And it's always the case. So for the last couple minutes of this meditation, just sit, don't move, and be aware of the passing of content as if you're watching a movie. And you recognize you are not the characters or the sensations that are arising on the screen. You are prior to or before all of it. Okay, take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, relax and open your eyes when you're ready. Okay. So it's really, really great to have so many people on the webinar tonight. I really like to be able to see everybody. I wish that I could have more little squares on one screen because it's very distracting trying to flip from one screen to the other so I can see everybody. So I'm going to flip a little bit, but not very often. I think I might be a bit distracted. So I don't know why so many people are here tonight, unless everybody's really interested in rejection, or at least can relate to the topic. I think that might be the reason. And also there's a lot of people on the call tonight that are part of our regular ongoing Sangha. And we happen to be studying all together a specific text that's about the ritual of rejection and the wound of love. So I think everybody's coming on because you probably just want to find out more about this. So I'm really excited to bring this to all the people who haven't heard about it before, and also for all of you that are studying it. And I tell you, this is something that is so super simple, but it can rock your world. And you're not going to be able to get it all tonight, but I hope you get just a little piece of what I'm trying to say. So we also have Esteban here with a couple people from Colombia. So he's translating into Spanish. So he asked me if I could speak a little slower. So I'm going to do my best, but you know, sometimes I get excited and I talk faster. So we'll just have to see what happens. Okay, so basically I'm going to tell you two stories. And one story is about rejection and the ritual of rejection. And the other story is about the wound of love. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the story of rejection and the ritual of rejection. So I think everybody, if you think about it, everybody has experienced rejection in your life. and everybody has rejected at one time or another, or maybe more than one time or another. So the way this story goes is if you imagine yourself before you were born, before you were incarnated into a body, and you were basically unmanifested, without form. You were God, spirit, or consciousness with no form. Nothing is missing. There's no limitation. There's no imposition. There's just a living in bliss and happiness. And then for whatever reason, you're going to incarnate into a body on this planet. So your first stop is in the womb of a woman. So you go from an existence of needing nothing, no desires, because everything, all your desires are met, you're in complete happiness, to all of a sudden you're in this tiny cramped little space and you're being fed from the body of this woman. So all of a sudden you need something. You need sustenance. The sustenance is coming from the body of the woman. You're probably a bit uncomfortable, who knows? Kind of squished in there. But then it's time for you to be born. Okay, and then you're basically, birthed through kind of an uncomfortable, you could say, experience of birth. But then you come into a world where then your sustenance that you've been used to, the umbilical cord is cut. And now you're no longer connected to the mother. You're separate. And now all of a sudden in that separation, you're also dependent upon another. The whole idea of an other comes into play. So your survival is not automatically taken care of. The mother will feed you when the mother wants to feed you. If she doesn't want to feed you, you don't get fed. So there's a certain tension that comes in. And if you can imagine that tension of coming into an existence where you are no longer automatically taken care of, you're dependent upon another for your physical survival, but now you also have an emotional anxiety of purely because you're drawing the conclusion that you're actually separate from the others that you see in this world. So if you can imagine, just think about it, you're in bliss, and then you get rejected from bliss into the womb. And then you're in the womb and you get rejected from the womb into this world. And everybody in this world has also gone through the same process. And everybody in this world has also drawn the same conclusion that you have, that you've been rejected. You might even draw the conclusion that you've been rejected by God. So here you are, this little baby in this world, trying to get by, completely dependent on people who are bigger than you. You're in a world where everybody feels rejected. And then you feel the most important part of this story is you start to recognize that you are alone, you are isolated, and you are separate. So this whole presumption of ego, and ego is basically the presumption that you are separate. This all comes from this initial shock of coming into the world. And then it's constantly fed by the world that we live in. So this presumption or this rejection, you could say the fundamental idea behind this rejection is that you do not love me. Now, some people will connect to that idea. You could say, yeah, I feel like I'm always looking for love and I can't find it. And then I'm with somebody and they reject me. And then what's the feeling? You do not love me. So I think a lot of people on this call, you can recognize this movement of you do not love me at certain times. But I think as we get into this deeper, you're going to find out that this complaint of "you do not love me" is fundamental to all of your suffering. It's the birth of ego. And like I said, ego is the insistence on separation. Okay? So in this "you do not love me," what happens in this story, and this is the sad part of the story, what happens in this story is all human beings, we have a heart's longing for love. We want to give love and we want to be love. And the sad part of this story is when you're convinced that you've been rejected by life or by another, you will not be able to receive love. Because you won't even know what it is. You won't even be able to feel it or see it. Because you're already in a position of protection and contraction, and in a position that you're convinced that nobody loves you. So it's a very intense thing. But if you look at your experience, you might find that this constant movement to find love and to find happiness, this constant movement of seeking, is directly related to this presumption that you're rejected. Is everybody with me so far? Okay, so the thing about this rejection, when you assume that you are not loved, and the you do not love me. I mean, where does that come from? You're saying you. There's already an imposition just in that thought. There's already an imposition that there's another. You do not love me. I'm not getting what I want. And then the next part of this sad story is you start to retaliate. So if you think about your own experience and you want someone to love you and you don't feel it, you don't get it back, you don't feel that love, what do? You get angry. You get sad. But usually what else we do is we retaliate. And how do we do that? We cut off. We manipulate. We get angry. We do it in so many different ways. And the interesting thing is if you look at ego and you look at egoic patterns, which is basically what this rejection is, if you look at it, all the different ways that you insist upon separation is exactly the root, and it's the way that the ritual of rejection continues to play out. Okay, so basically what I'm saying is we have a fundamental presumption that we've been rejected, and then we don't like that, so we retaliate. And when we retaliate, we set up a situation where we can't receive the love that we're actually looking for, and we continue to blame others for everything that they've done. We point the finger outward, and we create a situation that is very frustrating for everybody, because in all human beings, our heart's longing is to love and be loved. But because we're so convinced we're separate, we retaliate too quickly, because we already think we're rejected. Okay, so this is really important for everybody to kind of understand. I didn't, it's not like everybody came on this webinar to get depressed. So, but this is the way, this is life, it's just inherent in being a human being that we have the feeling of rejection because of the vital shock of coming into this body, and also because of the life experience that we have as we reject others and as others reject us. We're in a constant state of seeking for love, but we can't see the love that's already in front of us. And we can't see the love that's already in us because of this automatic rejection, this presumption of this rejection. So of course, this presumption, it's a presumption, it's not true. Nobody's rejected fundamentally. The fact that you've been incarnated into a body does not mean that you've been rejected by God. When bad things happen in life, it does not mean you've been rejected by life, but that's the assumptions that we draw. Okay? So you could say that when you feel rejected, what we do is we take life and we take everything, we take the person in front of us, we take our partner, we take whoever as just an insult. It's like, you're insulting me. It's like life is insulting me. And you can look at that and you can feel like when you don't get what you want or what you think you need and you get angry, you're contracted. It's like a contraction of the heart and you can't feel. You think you're feeling, but all you're doing is reacting because you're angry. It's like, what, and then you want to get back at the person. And even if you're consciously not thinking of this is why this is so liberating, because most of the time we're consciously retaliating and we don't even know it. And not only don't we know it, but we actually feel justified in our retaliation because you did something to me. So the reason why it's called a ritual is because we're constantly playing it out. It's like a program of presumptions and reactions and retaliations over and over and over again. And it causes suffering to ourselves and to others because we are unable to love, we're unable to give love, and we're unable to receive it. Okay? So that's one of the stories. That's the basic story of the ritual of rejection. But I also want to tell you the story of the wound of love. And these two things will come together. So the wound of love. So you have to recognize that everything that you love is in a state of change and a state of dying. Everybody on the screen, our bodies are actually in a state of dying right now. We never know. This body could die tomorrow. So everything we love and everything that we care about is insecure. It's not, it's constantly changing. It's not eternal. So we're in this incarnated state. Our deepest heart's desire is to love and be love and to give love. But we're afraid of death. So, and we're afraid of pain. So as you look at this, as you look at your life circumstance as a human being, we can all see how when we were babies, we've aged and we've grown and we've known people who have died. And we recognize that we're going to die, but we don't want to face that pain of that and that insecurity of the world that we live in. But what we really don't want to do is we don't want to face the pain. And it's the pain of death that we don't want to face, but it's also this deep pain of rejection that we carry with us. So because we don't want to face that pain, and then we shut off. We just break down. And so it's important that we actually acknowledge that the human existence is one of pain, for the very reason that everybody that we know and everybody that we love could die at any time. And that's just the way it is. But why do they call it the wound of love? So here we are as human beings with our deepest heart's longing of wanting to be love, wanting to give love, wanting to receive love. That's inherent in who we are. So as a human being, inherent in who you are, is a deep desire to love and a recognition of love. And simultaneously, you're in a human body where you recognize that everything is impermanent and is going to die. So that's a pretty difficult situation to be in, because what we do then is we hold back from love because we know that everything will die. So we don't want to like feel so much love for something that we know is not going to be here forever. So we hold back. So the wound of love is actually when a human being can embrace their human existence. They can completely embrace the impermanence of this human life and this body. And they also see something that's prior to this changing and and insecure situation. You get in touch with that which is prior to all of this. You get in touch with the deepest dimension of yourself that actually transcends time and space. And everybody on this call has had some glimpse of that, I'm sure. Otherwise, you wouldn't be on this call. So what I'm talking about is when you're alone by yourself, or you're deeply troubled by something, and you feel so sad you don't know what to do, or you feel so confused you don't know what to do, but somewhere you have some connection to something you know you can trust, something that's prior to all of it. And like I said in the meditation, that which is aware of all of the content, all of the conflict, all of the confusion, all of the pain. Okay, so when you are willing to be a human being in this world of impermanence, of pain, and of suffering, and you're willing to love wholeheartedly in spite of that pain and that insecurity, you see, what happens is you get in touch with the heart. You get in touch with the spiritual heart that never dies, that's never been born and will never die. You get in touch with that and you recognize that as yourself. And you can have glimpses of that. You can have deep experiences of that. But the question is, how do I live that? Lots of people go on retreats and have their minds blown, and they go back and they're just fall back into all their old habits. And then they're like, oh my God, I need to go on another retreat. And again and again and again. So what, as human beings, if we can embrace our human experience and we can embrace this deepest heart's longing to love and be loved and recognize that it's part of our humanity. If we recognize that and we don't hold back from that and we're not afraid of the pain of losing anything, you see, we will be human beings that are fully able to love, but we will feel the wound of love, because our human existence of insecurity is not going to change. It's something we have to accept. It's not something, we can hide from death. Everybody does it. But if you hide from death, you hide from love. If you hide from pain, you hide from love. If you feel pain and you allow yourself to feel, instead of the heart being closed because you're in a state of rejection and retaliation, if you allow yourself to love and be that, and you feel the pain of that, you see, you will have an open heart. And that open heart is still going to feel pain. But that pain will be transmuted to love, because you're not contracting, you're not blocking the love that you already are. Everybody with me so far? Okay, so how do you actually be a human being in this world where everything is constantly changing, everything is dying, there's insecurity, there's suffering, there's the masses who feel like they're rejected all the time, they're retaliating, shutting down, not being oneself, pointing the finger, blaming, shaming, not allowing love in, not being love, not giving love. How do you actually be in a world like this as you, as an individual human? How do you actually love? How do you actually be this wound of love that's so incredibly heart melting, heartbreaking, heart melting, alive, raw, real, amazing, beyond anything you can imagine, so much, so far beyond any pain you could actually feel? How do you do that? How do you live that on day-to-day basis? That's what everybody always wants to know, right? And I'll tell you, it's very, very simple, and it's going to take everything. So when I mentioned about the story of the rejection, the ritual of rejection, there's going to be times that the rejection is only your own mind convinced that you've been rejected by God. And there's going to be times that people are going to reject you. It's just the case. So in that moment, this is how you're going to live love. Instead of taking that perceived rejection that's happening in your mind, or a rejection that somebody actually is rejecting you, instead of taking it as an insult, as if somebody's doing something to you, instead of taking it as an insult, you're going to take it as a hurt. So just take a moment. If you take something as an insult, that means you're already setting up another. You're in a victim position. Somebody does something and you're insulted. In that moment, you have created the illusion of the separate self. The separate self never exists. It only exists in your own mind when you take life as an insult. So look at your own experience. Look at just any little thing that happens. I mean, it can be any little stupid thing, and you react and you retaliate. It's like, ugh, you know, and you get really angry. And most of the time, the anger, it just doesn't make sense. Or one of the ways it manifests is you start picking. You know, you just like, especially with your partner, probably, you just want to find fault with every little thing, right? You just want to point the finger out. You just want to make sure that they know that they're bad and they've rejected you, even though they haven't even done anything. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't. Okay, so the other option you have from the insult is you take it as a hurt. So an insult is basically a heart closing decision, and taking something as a hurt is a heart opening decision. So in both situations, the situation doesn't change. The fact that there's pain doesn't change. But if you take it as an insult, what you're doing is you're creating a situation where you're going to be aggressive. You're going to cut yourself off from love. You're going to attack other people. You're going to blame other people, and you're going to act like a victim. All because you think that there's something other out there that's doing something to you, which is the whole cycle of ego in the first place. But if you take it as a hurt, if you just take it as a hurt, you see the heart opens, you feel, you're in relationship with the other person. You're not blocking with all of your, all of your justifications. You're just with them. But you're not just with the other person, you're with yourself. And I'm not talking about your individual body mind. I'm talking about your true self. You're with God. You are God, as that one, not as the separate self that one day is going to find God with this constant seeking to find somebody who loves you. You're never going to find anybody that loves you, because you're always looking for somebody that loves you, which means you believe that you're already rejected. If you're looking for somebody that loves you and you're convinced that you're rejected and you're retaliating from that rejection, How is that possible that you're ever going to find love or be love? It's not possible. You see, it doesn't work. So I'm trying to save you a lot of heartache and a lot of suffering. And some of you are older than others. So, it's like, sorry, we didn't get to this earlier, but, this is so important, and everybody can radically change the way you live now. And not only radically change your own experience of being a human being, but you can actually show other human beings that there's a different way out. And it's simply by not taking life as an insult and taking it as a hurt. And there's something about this word hurt. If you think of insult, doesn't it sounds very harsh. It just sounds hard, it sounds edgy, it sounds aggressive, it's violent. And you think of hurt, and it just warms your heart. And so in that moment that you have a reaction to something or someone and you feel just completely rejected, just take a moment in that moment, just take a moment. And you're not trying to fight with your experience, you're not trying to change it. All you're going to do is you're going to say, am I taking this as an insult? If you are contracted and you're angry and you're retaliatory, you are taking it as an insult, and you have created the separate sense of self in your own mind in that moment. If you take it as a hurt, you see, it's a heart-opening experience. It shows you what your true humanity could look like and what it could feel like. So the question is, do you have the courage to try this out? Do you have the courage to take your life as a hurt instead of as an insult? And this wound of love, it's never going to heal. And the beautiful thing about that is, why would you want it to heal? If a heart is open, it's receptive. If you're able to receive pain and you recognize it as love, why would you want it to go away? But the reason why it will never heal is because the fact that we're human beings and we live in a world that is constantly changing and everything is dying, that's not going to change. The wound of love comes from the willingness to love in the face of that kind of insecurity. It's not holding back, And I think we all recognize how we hold back from people that we love or from animals that we love. And I just have to tell you, like, I have my dog, Sam, people who know me know that I love Sam. And Sam's this big old mountain dog, and he's 12 and a half years old, which is quite old for a mountain dog. And we live on the side of a mountain, so it's not so easy for him. And a few years ago, I recognized that, I was holding back from him because, usually big dogs live until they're about 10 years old. So I was thinking he was probably close to the end of his life. And I could feel I was holding back from him because I wanted to avoid the pain of when he left the body. But then I recognized what I was doing. And so I stopped holding back. But I recognized recently I was still holding back love from him, even though, I was taking good care of him. I was doing everything for him, but I was doing all these things for him. And I recognized that real love is just the willingness to be really truly with the other, the so-called other. So Sam, in this case, to be really truly with Sam, with no agenda whatsoever, not trying to do something for him, not trying to make him more comfortable, all of that will come, but just for the pure being of loving him with no expectations and not being afraid. Because I don't know, every day, I have to tell you, every day I look and I look out and see if he's still breathing, because I don't know. But I'm not going to hold back. And I'll tell you, that dog breaks my heart every day, and I'm so happy. And I'm sure all of you probably have some kind of experience around that, but I've found over in my own life that choosing to hurt opens the door to something you'll never find if you only choose to be insulted. And you really do you start to find out what it is to be a human being. And then you'll recognize the whole time that you've been in this ritual of rejection, you actually have not been able to see the love that's already here and now, right in front of you in the relationships you're already in. You cannot see it. But when you stop taking life as an insult and you receive it as a hurt, all of a sudden it's heartbreaking because you see, oh my God, love has always been here. I'm surrounded by it. I'm infused by it. So many people have loved me and I couldn't see it. But in that moment, you don't take that as an insult. You take that as a hurt too. Do you see what I'm saying? So we're all in the same boat. And it's an amazing boat to be in if you don't take the boat as an insult. If you take the boat as an insult, you're going to want to jump out of the boat because you feel like your boat is sinking most of the time. Okay, if you take it as a wound, you'll recognize that all of it's love anyway. You know, and sometimes your boat does feel a little bit rocky, but it's okay because you're not going to take it as an insult. Sometimes you might feel that you're just so incredibly distraught over something, but in that moment, you're not going to take it as an insult. And everybody can make that choice, and you will find your way with it if you do the practice. But you have to want to do it. So I encourage everybody to give it a try. Because otherwise you're just going to continue to feel rejected, you're going to reject, and you're going to continue to retaliate. And you're going to be the same aggression that you're complaining that other people are. You're doing it. Nobody's doing anything to you. It's all in your choice, whether it be insult or hurt. Okay? So maybe let's just take a few minutes and sit quietly because I've said quite a lot. And don't worry about it if you didn't understand the whole thing. If something rang true to you, that's all that matters. Okay, so just take a moment, close your eyes. Okay, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Okay. All right, so if anybody has any comments or questions, I mean, I think one thing that I want to get across to all of you when you leave this webinar is just for you to actually really get in touch with what's your relationship to life. Is it one of insult or is it one of hurt? And one way that you can tell is if you're always fighting to change the experience you're having, or you're fighting with your thoughts, or you're contracted. In that moment, you can recognize you're taking life as an insult. If you're blaming people for your unhappiness, you're taking life as an insult. So this is a very demanding thing that I'm actually talking about, but it's really simple and anybody can do it. And it's moment to moment. So I just want to be clear about that, because it's not like sometimes you're taking life as an insult. I think you're going to find that you're taking life as an insult a lot of the time. And you can be relatively happy and still be taking life as an insult. Some people are just downright miserable all the time. But not everybody feels like that. But if you think about people who are they're just constantly depressed. You wake up depressed. Just think about that for a minute. Are they just insulted by being alive? A lot of people don't want to be here. I can relate to just, some people wake up happy. I've never been like that until recently. So it doesn't really matter. It just matters in every moment. Are you taking the thoughts coming out of your own mind as an insult? Because a lot of time we're just insulted by ourselves. And it's kind of funny when you start thinking about it, because you think it's everybody else you're insulted by, and then you find out, oh my God, I'm insulted. There's nobody else here, and I'm still insulted. Okay, so if anybody has any questions or comments, let's just go for it. I kind of talked a bit longer than I normally do. So Laura's going to be flipping from screen to screen here. I just want to make sure people understood what I was talking about also. Who's that, David?
Hi.
Hello. Hi.
Yeah, my question was like when the yeah, when the speech is about has being insulted is one thing, but I was wondering how we relate with eventually has hurting other people.
What do you mean? How would you relate?
Yeah,
You
I
mean
mean,
if you feel bad about that?
mm, not really like how, yeah, maybe also, but we can change our no, our perspective about not feeling insulted but hurted by life. But my question is how we deal with the fact that maybe also us can hurt other people.
Well, they're very connected though, because you wouldn't hurt other people if you didn't take something as an insult, because that's the retaliation that I'm talking about. So can you give me an example of, and you don't have to tell the story, but can you give me an example of how you hurt someone?
I don't know, just taking a decision that maybe other people doesn't like, or yeah, you know, like yeah, just doing something that you feel right and maybe is not right for other people.
Okay, so this is very interesting because, we have to live our lives in a way that is in line with what we know to be true. And not everybody is going to agree maybe with how how you want to live your life. But you see the person, I'll just kind of say it in a story way. So you decide you want to do something, and you tell your partner, your friend, your mother, or whoever what you're going to do. And you say it with respect, but they still don't like it. So in that moment, what they're doing is they're taking what you're saying to them, and they're actually taking it as an insult. And then what they're going to do is they're going to retaliate. And maybe that retaliation is going to come in the form of blaming you for their unhappiness. Maybe they're going to try to shame you into doing what they want instead of what you want. Maybe they'll stop talking to you. Maybe they'll yell at you. So these are all different forms of retaliation. So you cannot control the reaction of another person. The only thing you can do is decide how you want to respond. So if you do something and the other people take it as an insult and they retaliate against you, you see, in that moment, you're responsible to take their retaliation as a hurt and not retaliate back. And then what you've actually done in that moment is you've broken this cycle of egoic retaliation that is happening all the time. It's just two egos going at each other most of the time. But you see, if you stop playing the game, you stop retaliating, you stop taking their reaction and their retaliation as an insult, then all of a sudden it's like the two egos are playing a game, and then one ego isn't going to play the game anymore. And it's like this ego doesn't know what to do. All of a sudden, something new is possible because the game has changed. And the game has gone from insult at insults to insult and love. So I don't know, does that help with your question?
Yeah, yeah, understood.
Because it's a big thing. And I was having a call with someone the other day, and they were worried about telling the person that, their partner, they were worried about telling their partner something that they thought their partner wasn't going to like. And so it was very interesting because, first of all, she was expecting a rejection before she even got one, which is part of her ritual of rejection, right? We're all expecting to be rejected. Where's that coming from? The belief that we're already rejected. So it's like afraid to talk to the person because you're afraid they're going to reject you. So you're already in a retaliated mode. In this case, the retaliation is a manipulation. You're trying to manipulate the situation before you even get started because you're coming from fear. You see, so that's just ego. It's ego coming again, ego, 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 again and again and again. Instead of just being straight and not being afraid, even if there's fear, you still come forward from a place of love, not from a place of retaliation and unlove and fear. And then what happens? Don't forget, this is the important part. All human beings have the same human heart. And that human heart wants to be loved, wants to give love and receive love. So when you stop retaliating against another human being, you actually give them an opportunity to get in touch with their heart because you're giving them love instead of unlove. And that touches them. It touches the essence of who they are because it's the essence of who you are. So you can't control anybody else. And that's the thing, is we're always going to get retaliation coming back at us. That's why this is a practice. You know, it would be really great if you just said, okay, I'm going to take it as a wound, and then everything you do, even all the love you're putting out, and everybody takes it as a wound and they come back to you with love. That would be fantastic, but it's probably not going to happen that way. But it doesn't matter, because your job is not take it as a, not take it as an insult, take it as a hurt. That's it. That's everybody on this call. If you want to break the cycle of ego in this world, then it starts with you. So it doesn't matter what the other person does. And I got to tell you, it's like this rejection ritual. That's why I told the story that fundamentally, everybody is operating from this belief of rejection. Everybody on the screen is operating from that. I don't care how nice you are. That's what you're doing a lot of the time. All you have to do is look at your own relationship to your own mind. Look at your relationships. Look at how contracted, how fearful. Just look at it. And then don't take what you find as an insult. Take it as a hurt, because that's the moment the heart opens, when a human being actually finds out how conditioned they are. And you want love, you want to be love. And then you find out, oh my God, I'm like a retaliatory, rejection monster. Then don't take it as an insult. Take it as a hurt. And it will break your heart wide open. And then you will start, you'll start getting connected to the love that's always already there in you and around you. But you won't know it until you try it. So David, did you have anything else you wanted to say about that, or was that?
No, it was fine. Thanks.
Was that okay? All right, good. This is very challenging, isn't it? But it's very exciting, because it means you're not stuck. And it means there's hope for a real relationship. But I guarantee you, if you do this, if you do this as a practice, I was going to give it as homework. Because just do it moment to moment, day to day, and just watch and see if you're reacting to life as an insult, or you're receiving life as a hurt. And if you are reacting, then look and see what your retaliation looks like, because that is the retaliation of the ego. In that moment, you have given yourself over to ego, and you're retaliating and you're being aggressive. But what does that look like in you? And some people, it looks like, being really sweet and nice. but very manipulative behind the scenes. That's retaliatory. It doesn't always look like nasty, angry in your face. But once you kind of get in tune with this and you recognize this in yourself, even sweet and nice starts to look angry and aggressive. But it's good to see it. So you stop doing it. You have to have the courage to see this in yourself.
Oh, there's Esteban.
Where's Esteban? Okay, Esteban, go ahead.
Como estamos dentro de un momento de contracción, sino desde la felicidad.
What is the best way to react? So what is the best way to react to that moment of contraction if it is seriously?
Porque no es como desde dentro del amor, ¿cierto? Sino como
If it is not from love, but how do we react? How do we respond to that in the moment of contraction?
Right. Okay, so this is a good question. I'm going to do this slow because he's translating. Okay. If you take it as an insult, it's not loving. If you take it as a hurt, it opens the heart and it is loving. It's one or the other. But you cannot try to be loving. The only way to truly love is to take it as a hurt. Because then the heart is open. And what a lot of people want to do is they want to look loving and hold on to their insult. Do you know what I mean? See, almost everybody wants to do that because there's no vulnerability. You get to hang on to your ego. You get to look nice, but it's not nice and it's not loving. So you can't try to be loving. You are loving if you take life as a hurt and not as an insult. You're not loving if you take it as an insult. It's not negotiable. Good, you're smiling, but it's true, isn't it? What's your name?
Mariana.
Hi, Mariana.
Hola.
Nice to meet you.
Igualmente.
Same as Portuguese.
He escuchado hablar mucho de ti.
I've heard a lot of things about you.
Good things?
Buenas
Sí.
cosas.
Well, that's good. I'm happy that you came tonight.
Estoy muy contenta de que llegaste, que viniste.
Did you have any other questions?
¿Tenías otra pregunta?
Por ahora no.
Remember Carolina?
Hi.
Oh my God. Hello. I remember you for sure.
Seguro me acuerdo de ti, claro que sí.
Yes, en 2017.
2017, almost.
Right. Are you still working in that the same place?
¿Sigues trabajando en el mismo lugar que estabas trabajando?
No,
antes?
yo renuncié después del retiro.
She quit after the retreat.
What happens? You guys go on a retreat and you lose your job.
Eso pasa mucho, que aunque te retire y te su trabajo.
No,
Bueno,
sí,
pierde,
sí.
Yeah, so all of you guys, just so you know, Pete and I went to South America in 2016 and 2017. And so we've met quite a few people in Colombia. Wow, it's really nice to see you again.
Es muy bueno verte.
Ay, lo mismo.
Same for you, same to you.
Come back next month.
Que vuelvas el siguiente mes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No sé qué más decir.
Claro, no
I
puedes
don't know.
That's okay, no worries. Nice to see you though.
Ah, que lo mismo.
Earlier, Rosalba messaged and said she's also from Colombia.
Who's that?
Rosalba.
Oh, Rosalba. Which part of Colombia, Rosabo? Where are you? Oh, well. Okay, cool. Anybody else have any comments or questions? This is not something it's very different. This is something we've been really here at the project. We've been going into a text about this and studying a text for over a month and reading this text every day and discussing it. And I tell you, it's never ending where it takes you. So we're just I'm just a little bit dropping something on you. And if anything kind of touches you, then it's going to be up to you to kind of pursue it, because you have to actually, you have to practice this in order to find out for yourself. And so the only thing I can really do is, give you the practice of looking and seeing if you're taking life as an insult or a hurt, and make the effort to take it as a hurt and see how it's very different than an insult in your own experience. Okay, and if any of you are interested, I can send you a text about it. And this text is by a teacher called Adida. But so I can make that available to you if you'd like. And so that way you have something to do for the next month until the next webinar.
Can I make
Any
a
other?
comment?
What was that, Julia?
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi. I just wanted to say what keeps popping up in my head is just if we truly open ourselves to taking life as a hurt, it means in the end to just really feel what is going on, right?
Right.
And then just feeling the impact of what is happening, and also what my actions are actually having, what kind of impact my actions are having, which means that I have to feel it.
Right. And the thing that's really interesting about this is a lot of times it's important you feel the effect of your actions, but also when you allow yourself to fully feel, you're going to feel a lot. It may be in direct relationship to a particular situation, but it might just be like opening the floodgates of feeling. Because a lot of people don't feel very much. And part of it is because of this fear of pain and fear of death. We just want to avoid it all. And when we start feeling, you're going to feel a lot more than you ever can imagine. And some of it's going to be painful, but I tell you, what you're going to do is you're going to fall in love with feeling, because it's so much better than not feeling. Even if it's painful, at least you're alive.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you brought this up, because it's very much about feeling.
Yeah, I can relate to what you're saying, especially about the aliveness. And then also my experience is like, okay, maybe it doesn't really feel like nice in a way, but at least I'm very alive, and it's like very empowering.
Right. And the only thing that's really takes it as if it doesn't feel nice, it might feel painful. But you see, this is the difference. If you take it as an insult, it's egoic, because who is the I that's concerned about how you feel? It's got to be ego. So that's why if you're willing to feel, you'll feel, because that's part of being a human being. But you won't just feel pain. You'll feel love. You'll feel like a happiness that's not connected to anything in particular. Which is really amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And the reason why it's amazing is because it's not conditional. It's not based on any particular idea, any circumstance, or any emotion. And that means it's always there, because it's not based on anything conditional. It's a happiness that's inherent in all of us. here and now and always, here and now. Not sometime in the future. Sometime in the future means what's happening right now is not it. And that's an example of taking life as an insult. I don't, what's happening now is not what it's supposed to be. That's why I said earlier, a lot of you, if you really take this practice to heart, you'll find out that the habit is to be insulted. But then don't take that as an insult. You see, so you're never stuck. And that's why it's called the wound of love. It's not called the wound of pain or the wound of, the wound of suffering or something. It's called the wound of love. So just keep your eye on the love part, and then you'll embrace the wound part. But these two stories really come together, the story of retaliation and the story of the wound of love, because all of it is basically arising from the same source. So in a certain way, this whole movement of retaliation and ego is also consciousness, just as much as the wound of love is consciousness. But the retaliation and the rejection, for I hope most of you, if not all of you, I hope that rejection ritual is becoming so painful to you that you're open to changing how you relate to life. And I'm giving you such a simple way to start. So you're going to find out how attached you are to being a victim, and also how attached you are to for the option to retaliate. Because you don't get to retaliate if you take it as a hurt. It doesn't mean, I just want to be clear to everybody, it just doesn't mean that people do stuff to you and you take it as a hurt. And that means automatically that you don't say anything, you just like keep taking it, No, if you take it as a hurt, it means that there's, an open heart there to respond. And maybe that response is going to be saying, hey, what you just did wasn't cool. Maybe you're going to have to be a little tough with someone, but it's going to be coming from an open heart. It's not going to be coming from retaliation. So I'm glad I got that in before the end of the webinar, because, sometimes people have these ideas, especially around spiritual matters. You're just supposed to go, oh, la, 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 everything is love, and you can do whatever you want to me, and it's not going to affect me or touch me or anything. I'm just too above all that. And then you just let the other person run around being a retaliating ego. There's no love in that. It's just you taking on a different persona, some kind of spiritual persona. It's not real. We have to be willing to be in relationship with each other. But it's kind of a love-hurt relationship and not a wounded retaliation, unloved relationship. But we don't even know what it looks like. I got to just tell you, this is all new to me too. It's like we as human beings, we do not know what this looks like on a regular basis. We just don't know. So if anybody's on this call thinking that, you got it all together, I mean, I hope it's true, but I would question it. Sorry, but just have to be honest,
So it's not about giving the other cheek.
No.
Just to be sure.
But you knew that, right, Benedita?
Yeah, I knew that.
I know you knew that. Right. But that's the liberation, isn't it? Because when you do the other cheek, and I mean, I know you got to turn the other cheek, and I'm not talking about but when people turn the other cheek, usually what they're doing is they're just holding on to the insult and they're just taking the hit. which means usually they're holding on to some kind of victim position and they're trying to be a good person and they're just taking the hit. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being completely here, feeling the pain of some kind of rejection, and then not taking it as an insult, taking it as a hurt and responding. But I really do want to emphasize to all of you, I've said it a couple times, but we're so convinced that it's always the other person that's rejecting us. We're very convinced of that. And then we have to do something in relationship to the other person. And I just want to warn you a little bit that a lot of the rejection that you're experiencing is coming from your own mind. It's coming from your own conditioned belief that you're rejected. And then the problem is that somebody says something to you that doesn't have a rejection in it, but you receive it as the rejection and you retaliate on someone that hasn't done anything to you. So keep that part of the puzzle in the picture, because everybody wants to know what to do with all those egos out there in the world. You know, and that's just a distraction from taking on, what am I doing? Because if you're pointing the finger outward, you are taking life and that person as an insult. It's just the way it is. And so it's like, you take care of yourself, but this ritual of rejection is active. And it doesn't really have anything to do with the other from one perspective. It has to do with you and your relationship to it. Because if it wasn't that, if you don't take care of your own presumed rejection, if you don't take care of that, it doesn't matter who's in front of you. You know, and if you have a partner and you think it's their fault, you know, and you get rid of them and you have a new partner, and the same thing happens again, and then you get rid of that one, you have a new partner, same thing happens again. You got to start questioning that maybe it's not the partners. I'm sure the partners are also playing having their part in it. But you see, they have to take care of their ritual of rejection. You have to take care of yours. And if you take care of yours and they're still retaliating, you see, you'll have a different response. And that's what you're responsible for. And they're responsible for theirs. And you can't make anybody be interested in this. But if you stop worrying about everybody else and you just worry about yourself, you see, your freedom is in your own hands. And then you're not taking life as an insult. You're taking it as a hurt. And then you're alive and you're connected to love and you're awake. Okay. I'm just looking at the clock. I always try to finish sort of on time. But I know this was a lot to take in tonight. And so yeah, Laura will send out the recording and maybe watch it again. And like I said, do the homework, do the practice moment to moment. And, you know, as soon as you get off this webinar, you know, see what your relationship is to your own experience. Just see, it's all there for you to see if you want to see. It's all there for you to feel if you want to feel. And it's all there for you to deny if you want to deny. It's up to you. But the good news is it's all in your hands. So you can't blame anybody about anything. Because it's all in your hands. It's not in their hands, it's in your hands. Okay. So I hope everybody got something out of tonight. I feel like things have sunk in. So it would be nice also, if you feel inspired, just to send Laura some emails. And, you know, especially for all of you that aren't part of our regular Sangha, just to kind of let me know, you know, let me know how you found the webinar. Let me know if this has had any impact on your life. Let me know if you're if you're trying this in your life and what you find out. Okay. I always like to hear what's going on with everybody. Okay, so I guess Laura, you're going to do your thing.
Okay, thank you, Cynthia. That was amazing. So yes, I will send an email out in the next 2 or 3 days with the recordings and also links to events coming up. The next webinar will be April the 7th. And then we have a couple of events coming up in May. There's the May meditation retreat, which starts on the 30th of April for the weekend. And we have a public women's retreat, 5-day public women's retreat in May, which is pretty unmissable. So I would start checking for flights now, and I'll send all the details and links for these. And I'll also send my email so you can contact me with how you're getting on, and I'll pass it on to Cynthia.
10-day retreat.
And then in August, we have our fantastic annual 10-day retreat, which is really a chance to dive deep into the teachings with Pete and Cynthia here at the Kinta. And yeah, that's also not to be missed if you're interested in going deeper. And that's it, I think.
Okay.
Everything else will be in the email. Oh, just that Cynthia offers these webinars by donation. So if you feel inspired to donate, all the details will also be in the email, or you can find them on our webpage.
Okay, so, all right. So this is, yeah, it feels like this webinar was super short. So yeah, I'd really like to hear from some of you just to know how things landed for you. All right, so I hope to see all of you next month. And yeah, let's open up all the microphones. And everybody, this is the part where everybody can just say goodbye or hello.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Bye.
much.
Thank you,
Cynthia.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Ciao.
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 Yeah, good to see you guys.
Boa noite.
Screen is going crazy. Oh, a little fly on the wall there, huh? We have a fly on the wall.
He has 2 thumbs up.
Yay.
Elisa, it's very nice to see you.
Oh, Pete, it's very nice to see you.
Pete.
All right, good to see you guys. Thanks for coming.
Obrigada.
Bye.
Thank
It's a
you.
great webinar.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.